Miss McDonald and Miss Roper here. We just thought we would give you a quick update on our topic this half term. So it is called Revolution, which is looking at the Victorian era. They're going to start in history by looking at Queen Victoria's life, so from when she was born, all throughout her reign to when she died in 1901. They will then do a comparison between the rich and poor, so that will be their general lifestyle, the way they lived, the jobs they had, their workhouses and the foods that they ate. They will then move on to looking at the Industrial Revolution and the impact that had on Britain.
In science this half term, we will be looking at electricity, and the children will be researching circuits, looking at creating diagrams and creating physical circuits. This will link with our Griffin Science Symposium for this half term, and Mr. Grew will be sharing some other activities and resources for the children to use and research. Alongside this, we will be creating more things within DT. So the children will be looking at a topic called Birdhouse Builders, where they will research and plan and create their own wooden birdhouses. This will develop lots of their skills such as woodwork, planning, and also giving each other feedback on their designs.
Hi Griffin families, Miss McDonald here. I'm just going to go over the topics that we're going to be covering in maths this half term. It is the last full half term before the children sit their SAT, so we will be doing a lot of arithmetic revision at the start of each lesson. But following on from that, we're going to be looking at fractions, decimals, percentages, the equivalences between the three, and we will also be having a big focus on percentages. So I'm going to briefly go over a percentage question that might come up, and so that you can support the children at home. So the children might be asked to work out what is 85% of 280. So 100% is 280, that is your whole. Okay, so we need to work out 85% of that. The easiest way to do that is to work out the difference between 85 and 100. So in this case, it is 15%. So we're looking for 15%. The easiest way to do that is to break it up into 10% and 5%. So to find 10% of 280, you need to divide it by 10, because to go from 100 to 10%, you divide that by 10. So 280 divided by 10 is just 28. And then to go from 10% to 5%, you divide by 2, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. So you need to do the same to the other side. And 28 divided by 2 is 14. So now that I found 10% and 5%, I find 15% by adding them together. So I've got 28 add 14. 8 add 4 is 12. 2 add 1 is 3, add the 1 is 4. So I've now worked out 15% of 280 is 42. However, that is not what the question asked me. The question asked me what is 85%. So I know to get to 85, I do 100 take away 15. So I need to do the same on the other side. So I need to do 280 take away 42. So you do 0 take away 2, which you can't do, so you have to borrow. So that becomes a 7 and the 0 becomes a 10. 10 take away 2 now is 8. 7 take away 4 is 3. 2 take away 0 is 2. So 85% of 280 is 238.
Hello part-time families, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about English for Spring 2. So we will be really ramping it up a little bit in terms of our SATs revision, particularly for our grammar, punctuation and spelling. From our mocks that we have completed with the children, we are seeing that they're making really good progress with reading. They are making progress with grammar, punctuation and spelling, but it's just about making sure we're refining their terminology and they have that understanding of that when applying it into the test. So I am going to just go through some of the word classes that the children will be familiar with. We have covered all of these now over the course of either Spring 1 or Spring 2. And really it will be beneficial for them to keep practicing these, because in their GPS test They will be asked questions such as find the noun, find the verb, and they will need to distinguish what that is first of all and then be able to find it in a sentence. Now, although the children can have the GPS test read to them, if they ask, for example, what does that mean, we cannot actually inform them what it does mean. So this is why the revision will be really, really important to keep revisiting it, and hopefully for yourselves at home, it will just jog your memory since school about what these are. So we have got nouns. So a noun is a person, place or a thing. So I've got some examples here like table, Mrs. Boys, London. We've got verbs, so we always use the phrase it's a verb, it's an action word, so things that you can physically do like jumped, hopped. We also remind them about these auxiliary verbs because sometimes in the SATs it does try and trick them a little bit and it will have words such as was or were that it wants the children to find. We've got adjectives, so they describe the noun. So for example, shiny table, so that word shiny would then become the adjective within that phrase. You've got adverbs, so they describe the verb. It almost has this ad here at the beginning, so we try and make them use that idea of the adjective and verb almost being joined together. So it's telling you how they're going to do something. So usually the adverbs will end in ly. So some examples here are quietly and quickly. We do say to the children though, sometimes again in the SATs test, it will try and throw them off a little bit and have lots of words within the sentence with ly. To try and steer them away from just using that to be able to guide them to answer the question. But as long as they think about how they are doing the verb, then that should aid them with doing that. And the ones most recently that we have looked at these this week, so it's prepositions, conjunctions and determiners. So prepositions talk about like the time, place or movement. So the most obvious ones are usually this idea of this position. So we try and get them to look at that word. So saying under or behind, they are usually almost the most obvious ones in the previous SATs papers that we've had. We've also got conjunctions, so they join two clauses. There are different types of conjunctions that they may be asked to specifically find that type. So we have coordinating conjunctions which have the acronym fanboys to almost encourage the children to remember what they are. And then subordinating conjunctions which again have an acronym of ISA or WABUB. Does sound very random, but the children are aware of what that is and how to use that to recap. Again, here are some examples here, so like and, but, because, so, if, although. And then finally, we have determiners. So determiners determine the noun. So they usually come directly before the noun. Obvious ones are like the or a. There are lots of different types of determiners. So you may have possessive determiners, which might be like my socks, so my being the possessive determiner. You can also have numbers. So they would be quantifying determiners, so giving information about how many. But really, in a summary, those are the word classes. Definitely, we are going to be revising with the children and getting them to recap. As well as this, we will obviously be continuing with our writing. But if there's anything you are unsure about, do come and speak to us. Family consultation even, we would be happy to help and use the revision guides as much as you can to just do any revision up till Easter and beyond up until SATs to get yourself ready. Thank you.